Hello and welcome back to Copic in the Craft Room. It's Michelle Houghton here, and I am having a blast with this fun Stamp Anniething image. This is a digital image that she created for a live Facebook tutorial. Now I have changed it. It comes as a black line digital image like this, and it has three variations, one with a little skirt, one with shorts, and one with overalls. When we did the live Facebook tutorial, we did this little overall girl, and we did her monochromatic. That aired on Monday. If you're still interested in coloring along with this specific tutorial, you can follow that live tutorial. You can go back and see the recording on Stamp Anniething. That's ANNIETHING on her Facebook page. That's still going to be there. You can get this little fun digi, and you can also get the cut files for the card pieces, including the little banner. So that is available. But I'm having so much fun with her, and because I did the kind of the full length overall, and this was all in violet and blue violet, I wanted to do her in her shorts because I love the skirt, but I love the shorts too. So what I've done with this, I did a couple different things when I did the monochromatic purple. I also printed her in. I changed the lines. You can kind of see, especially around her eyes, I changed the line color in my computer. I changed it to a violet color, and so it kind of blended in and created a no line effect. I've printed it one more time, and this time doing a really light sepia so that I can do a little bit of no line coloring. And whenever I do this, I do it very sectionally, so the areas that run into each other, I can still see them. I will be going over her actual pupil and probably eyelashes with a black multiliner. So I will do that with a 0.1 or even smaller for the eyelashes, and I can go a little bit bigger on the eyes. So I'll probably do that with a multiliner. So I'm gonna speed up, do my normal thing. I'll try to keep it pretty quick on my end so that I don't have to speed it up too much. But again, this is from Stamp Anniething, and you can look up this digital file there. And she has a great club participation piece too, so you can look those up on her website. So let's get going. So I'm gonna apologize in advance for the speed of this video. Coloring this no line does take longer, and so I did have to quicken this up fairly fast. I'm starting on her skin with an E50, so that's my lightest skin color, and I'm going to do a whole series of color on her skin. E21 is next. I'm coming in from the sides. This is just a kind of general warm lighting situation. She's out on a sunshiny day, so I'm creating that roundness by coming in from the sides, coming up under her hairline. I am adding just a slight hint of a nose, and then I'm adding E11 to the jawline and cheeks, out on her cheekbones, and then up under the jaw and up on her neck, tiny bit on the inside piece of her nose. E04 is the last shading color that I'm using on her face for those darkest shadow areas. It's coming in above her eyes, kind of in that crease line, and then I'm blending from here. So I'm going back through my steps, E11 to soften that E04. And I know E04 is kind of a darker color, but this really does blend it out well. E21 is next. Again, softening that edge between the two colors, making sure to hit the neck area, the nose, and then E50 is next. And this is where you're really going to see it soften and kind of melt into each other, which I love. Hit one more corner with that E04 and E11. I'm doing a little bit of E93 on her cheeks, and I filled in her tongue, and then E04 on her tongue as well, and softening with E93. Now I've grabbed a multiliner. This is a 0.1 size-wise, and I'm going to go over her lash line on both eyes, and I'm also going to go over her pupil. Now I could use a little bit bigger multiliner on her pupil, but this is what I had available on my desk, so this is what I'm doing. So I outlined those pupils, and I'm just doing little circles to fill it in. It doesn't really matter how you fill it in, but I'm doing that just to get it nice and solid. I'm not going to outline the eye itself. I'm truly just doing the pupil and then the lash where the eyelashes, that lash line. That's the only piece on her eyes. And then I also do the back around her tongue, inside her mouth. Again, I'm not outlining. I'm just doing that blank open space. Then her hair, I'm starting with my lightest color again, which for her, this one is YR31. It's one of my favorite hair base colors. I'm flicking from the bottom edges up and from the part out. And then I'm going to leave the stuff behind her shoulders because I'm going to fill that with darker colors. YR24 is next. This is another favorite hair color of mine. I love the earthy, it's not as brassy yellow. It has those red tones in it, and to me it has just enough gray to make it look like a more natural hair color. I realize this is a fun, cute stamp, but I still like to have a little bit of a realistic look, and I appreciate this still looks like a cute little stamp when it's done. So I'm flicking from, again, the part out, bottom edges up, and I do go from her clip out as well. I figured that that's pulling that hair inward, so there'd be a little bit darker right around the clip where it kind of pulls it inward toward her head. This next color is E35, so I'm adding some earth tones here at the end, again, to make it a little bit more real, darkening up the area around her neck and behind her shoulders even further. And I've got one last color. Notice that as I get darker, each of these gets shorter and faster. Shorter in the amount of time it takes because I'm doing fewer flicks. These focus in right around the neck and that bottom edge of hair that falls behind her shoulder. And then there's just 3 or 4 flicks coming from all of those areas that the other colors are coming from. Now, I've skipped a color and I've gone back to YR24, and I'm starting again from the edges and working inward. This is going to soften some of those colors together. Then YR31, kind of working it from the middle into those highlights a little bit. And then I'm actually going into the highlights and flicking outward with the Colorless Blender. A little bit more E35. I had some places where my flicks were going crooked, so I'm trying to even that out. YR31. Back and forth, back and forth. I didn't get the rest of her skin, so I'm going to run through those colors one more time. E50 is that base layer for the skin. E21 is the first layer of shading. Just creating that form, that shape. Again, it's kind of a front light situation, just a general sunshiny day. So I'm just trying to add that cylinder shape to her arms and legs. Got a little dip under her knees, so it kind of comes in there. Tiny bit of the E04. I did get that E11 in there, and then this is the E04 in those deepest shadows. E11 is going to help soften that E04 as much as anything, just right into that E04 to really soften that up and push it into those deepest shadow areas. E21 is next, softening up the edge of that E11. And then I'll finish off with E50. And again, I love this last step because it always kind of just melts it all together, which is always the really fun part. I am using a little bit of Colorless Blender on the outside of that one leg, so I did bleed outward a little bit. It is hard when you're doing no line coloring to keep everything in the lines. B91 is going to go on her cute little overalls. I'm going for kind of a washed denim look. B95 is going to be the darker of the two. And I'm just trying to kind of accent some of those details that we see. We can barely see them because the stamped image is so light. And so I'm trying to really accentuate, some of those areas. So I'm softening that with the B91, adding a little bit darker again with B95. So I'm going back and forth between the two. Now we can see those pockets again, a little bit of the seaming, and then I'm coming in with my Colorless Blender. This is a technique I use a lot on denim, doing a little bit of circling right in the center of the image to soften it and make it look worn. R81 is going to base that little shirt, and then R83 is going to go in and hit those details. Again, adding hopefully a little bit of shape to that image so you can see the variation between the levels, the roundness of the arms. V12 on her adorable butterfly clip. Turn that little guy purple. And V04 to add some detail. And then I use a Colorless Blender to kind of push back to add that highlight Y28 on the actual clip, and then I come back in with my multiliner again. I decided I wanted to see more of the detail of the butterfly, so I do the body and little antennae. N5 is going to base the shoes. Notice I left that little white highlight, and then N9. So they're little black kind of patent shoes. They're going to have a little shine on them. Blend it with the N5 and then go back in with the colorless blender. These are so small and they do bleed out. So I'm going to do a little correcting work. I've got a little colorless blender kind of working on that bottom edge of both shoes, kind of pushing it through the paper and back a little bit toward the shoe, and then using the multiliner to clean up the edge. Thank you so much for joining me this week. See you next time on Copic in the Craft Room on YouTube.